Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are going to travel back to one of the greatest centers of knowledge, culture, and civilization in history, medieval Baghdad, a city that was the heart of the Islamic Golden Age, where intellectuals, scientists, poets, and philosophers mingled in a bustling, vibrant atmosphere. But, as much as this city shone as a beacon of civilization, there was one major challenge you'd have to contend with: heat. And let me tell you, it's not the kind of heat you'd want to face while trudging through a marketplace or attending a scholarly debate. You probably won't survive it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And, while you're at it, feel free to post where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. Section 1. The Baghdad. You don't know. Baghdad, during the 9th century, was a marvel in itself. The city was alive, a vibrant blend of architectural beauty, intellectual stimulation, and economic success. Under the reign of the Abbasid Caliphate, Baghdad became the largest city in the world with more than 1 million inhabitants. The Abbasids fostered an era of unparalleled innovation, where Baghdad became a hub for philosophers, mathematicians, astronomers, and doctors. The House of Wisdom, one of the most famous institutions of the time, stood as the center of learning. There, scholars from different corners of the world worked on translating Greek, Indian, and Persian texts into Arabic, preserving ancient knowledge, while simultaneously making groundbreaking advances in science and mathematics. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of the city. The air is thick with the fragrance of spices like saffron, cinnamon, and cumin. Merchants hawk their goods, their voices loud and inviting. The Silk Road has just brought fine fabrics from China, and traders from India barter precious stones. The constant flow of new knowledge, inventions, and goods made Baghdad one of the most advanced cities in the world during this period. And yet, despite all of this greatness, there was one pressing issue that every inhabitant had to face: the sweltering heat. Now, you might be thinking, what could be so bad about heat? I live in a tropical country where temperatures can hit 40 degrees Celsius, and I survive. But the heat in Baghdad wasn't like the heat in other places. It was intense, oppressive, and continuous. The city's geographical location, smack in the middle of the desert, made it a prime target for high temperatures that often soared to 40 degrees 100 or higher during the summer months. Imagine that heat not just for a few hours but for weeks, stretching over long dry days. The sun bore down mercilessly, making even the simplest of tasks unbearable. The air was hot and dry, sucking the moisture out of your body with every breath. And that wasn't all. Without the modern conveniences we take for granted, air conditioning, fans, cool beverages on hand, the only way to deal with the heat was to adapt. So, what did people in Baghdad do to combat this? Well, they turned to a time-honored solution: cold baths. And not just for hygiene. No, these baths were an essential part of everyday life, a refreshing respite from the oppressive summer heat. But the cold baths in Baghdad were more than just a way to cool off. They were deeply intertwined with the city's culture, social fabric, and medical practices. But first, let's take a moment to understand just how important these cold baths were. Public baths, known as hammams, were a staple of Islamic cities, particularly in the Middle East. The concept of public bathing had been inherited from ancient Roman and Persian traditions, but in the Islamic world it took on a new significance. Bathing was not just a way to cleanse the body, but also a ritual that promoted socialization, relaxation, and even medical benefits. These bathhouses were not simply for washing away dirt and sweat. No, they were a place where people came to meet, talk, business, discuss intellectual matters, and even relax. In a bustling city like Baghdad, where every moment of the day was filled with activity, the hammam became a sanctuary of peace, a place to escape from the heat, the noise, and the exhaustion of daily life. Now, before we dive deeper into the wonders of these baths, let's take a quick moment to understand just how extreme the heat could be in Baghdad. In the summer months, people would often suffer from heat exhaustion and dehydration, which could easily lead to more serious conditions like heat stroke. In a time without modern medicine, heat stroke could be deadly. It's hard to even imagine living in those conditions. Imagine the sweat trickling down your back as you walk through the scorching streets, the dust and sand clinging to your skin. The sheer discomfort would have been unbearable. And with no relief in sight, the public baths provided the much-needed cooling effect that would save you from the worst of it. Historians still debate whether the practice of cold bathing was inherited more from the Persian or Roman tradition. But what's clear is that by the time the Abbasids took control of Baghdad, the city had fully embraced the bathhouse culture. Cold baths were not just a luxury, they were a necessity for surviving the heat and maintaining physical and mental well-being. For centuries, the people of Baghdad had relied on this simple yet effective solution to counter the oppressive summer heat. And even though these baths were deeply rooted in ancient traditions, the Abbasid era brought with it a refinement of the practice enhancing the medical and social benefits that would be enjoyed by countless generations. By the time you get to the public bathhouses in the heart of Baghdad, you'd notice the difference immediately. The cool marble floors beneath your feet, the mist rising from the warm pools of water, the soft sound of flowing water filling the air. It was a place where you could truly feel at ease, where the intensity of the city's heat no longer had control over you. The bathhouses were truly a sanctuary. A place where not just the body, but the mind and soul could find a little peace in a world filled with intellectual and physical exertion. So, as we continue our journey into the history of cold baths in medieval Baghdad, remember, these were not just places of cleanliness. They were places where life in the city slowed down, if only for a moment. A chance for people to cool off, both literally and figuratively, from the scorching realities of the day. Section 2. You're sweating. A lot. It's sweltering, isn't it? You're in the middle of Baghdad's summer, and every breath feels like you're inhaling a furnace. The heat doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it takes a toll on your body in ways you can barely imagine. The air is thick, oppressive, and dry like walking through an oven. The heat seems to seep into your very bones, and the sweat just pours out of your body, soaking your clothes until they feel like they're drenched in water. The problem is, it's not water, it's salt, and it's draining you. Now, I can already hear you thinking, why not just go inside, somewhere cool? That sounds like the obvious answer. But here's the thing, in a city like Baghdad, finding a place to escape the heat wasn't as easy as it sounds. This was a time before air conditioning, and while there were some cool, shaded courtyards and homes, most of the time you didn't have the luxury of simply escaping the heat whenever you wanted. The streets were open, exposed to the sun, and even the luxurious homes of the wealthy could not fully shield you from the blazing desert sun. And forget about the idea of jumping into a cold pool whenever you wanted. Those resources were limited to the few who could afford them. You might even find yourself struggling to focus. The heat does that to you. It messes with your ability to think clearly. Your body, desperate to cool itself down, becomes distracted, trying to get rid of the excess heat. Your brain slows down and your thoughts become foggy. And it's not just you, it's everyone. The intellectuals who gather at the House of Wisdom sweating. The merchants haggling in the market sweating. The street vendors selling roasted meats and bread. Yep, sweating. The heat doesn't discriminate. It's relentless and ever-present force that pushes against your every movement. But before you start panicking, don't worry. You're in luck, there's a solution. And it's not just any solution. It's a solution that's been used for centuries by people who understood the value of cooling down in the midst of intense heat. A cold bath. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could something as simple as a bath help with all this? Well, here's where it gets interesting. The cold bath, or hammam, was not just a way to clean yourself. It was an essential part of life in Baghdad, particularly during the summer. In fact, it was more than just a luxury. It was a life-saving strategy, a way to combat the dangers of heat stroke dehydration and exhaustion. In a time when the human body had no easy way to cool off in the blistering desert heat, a cold bath was a refuge. A place where you could restore balance to your body and mind. Let's paint a picture. You've been walking the streets all day feeling like your skin is about to melt off your bones. The heat has drained you, and you're so thirsty you could drink an entire river. You feel sluggish, slow, and slightly dizzy. But then you hear the sound of water. The hammam is nearby. It's your oasis, your sanctuary, and as you step inside, you immediately feel the difference. The moment your foot touches the cool floor, it's as if your body remembers what it means to feel alive again. You slip into the cold water, and it's like everything you've been suffering through suddenly melts away. The cool water hits your skin, shocking your system in the best way possible. It's invigorating. The water wraps around you like a gentle embrace, easing the tension in your muscles and relieving the heat that's been building up inside you. The coolness helps your blood pressure stabilize, your heart rate slows, and you can breathe again. For just a moment, the heat outside no longer controls you. It's almost like a reset button for your body. Cold baths were a vital part of everyday life for people in Baghdad because they helped prevent heat stroke and kept you from succumbing to the heat's overwhelming effects. The cooling effect on the skin helped lower body temperature, while the immersion in cold water promoted better circulation, boosting the immune system. What's more fascinating is that cold baths didn't just help you physically, they also helped mentally. In the days before modern medicine and science, people didn't fully understand why cold baths worked, they just knew they did. People used cold water to refresh their minds too. It was a way to relax after a long day in the sun, a way to clear your mind and prepare for another busy evening. The hammam wasn't just a place to bathe, it was a space for socializing, relaxation, and reflection. The cool water had a calming effect on the mind, helping you forget the stresses of the outside world, if only for a little while. Now, let's take a step back for a moment. You might be wondering why people in Baghdad were so accustomed to these cold baths. After all, cold water isn't exactly the first thing people think about when it comes to surviving in the desert, right? Well, it turns out that cold baths were not just a survival mechanism. They were also deeply tied to the cultural and religious practices of the time. Bathing was seen as a purifying ritual, an act of cleanliness that went beyond the physical body. It was spiritual. It symbolized a fresh start, a cleansing of the soul. Historians still debate the exact origins of the hammam system in the Middle East, with some tracing it back to the Romans who built elaborate public baths in their empire. The Persian influence is also strong in the region, as the Persians had their own version of bathhouses. Regardless of the origin, it's clear that the cold bath had become an integral part of life in Baghdad by the 9th century. For the people of Baghdad, the cold bath was more than just a necessity, it was an experience. So there you are in the hammam, feeling the coolness wash over you as you let out a sigh of relief. The sweat that has been tormenting you all day is gone. You feel rejuvenated, refreshed, and ready to face the rest of the day or night depending on how much time you spend in the bath. In the heat of Baghdad, this simple yet profound practice was a lifesaver, literally. But let's be clear, not everyone had the luxury of a cold bath whenever they needed one. Bathhouses were relatively expensive, so many of the poor and working class didn't have easy access to them. For those who could afford it, however, the hammam became an essential part of their lives, a place of cooling relief, of social gathering, and of mental rejuvenation. Section 3. Ancient Public Baths. As you settle into the cool embrace of the hammam, you start to notice something truly unique. It's not just about bathing. It's about being part of something much larger than yourself. You're not alone in the bathhouse, far from it. In fact, you're surrounded by a mix of people each seeking the same relief from the searing heat. The hammam is one of the most important social spaces in medieval Baghdad, and it's so much more than a place to wash off the sweat and grime of the day. The concept of the public bathhouse, or hammam, was rooted in both practicality and ritual. It wasn't just about cleaning up, it was about creating a space for people to come together, relax, and share moments of social exchange. The hammam was a communal experience, and in a city as bustling and vibrant as Baghdad, this was one of the few places where people of all walks of life could mingle freely. Think about it, if you were a merchant or scholar, or even a lowly laborer, you could meet in these baths and exchange not only gossip, but also business ideas, political opinions, or philosophical debates. The hammam was a place for intellectual stimulation and personal connection. And it wasn't just about talking shop, it was about sharing your life and your thoughts in a place where the outside world's worries didn't matter. You could relax, feel refreshed, and for a few hours forget about the sweltering heat and the complexities of daily life. The hammam served as a social leveling ground. Whether you were a wealthy merchant in your fine silks or a common laborer in your simple cotton robe, the public bath was one of the few places where class distinctions seemed to melt away, much like the sweat off your back. Everyone, regardless of their social status, needed to take a break from the relentless heat, and the bathhouse provided a welcome refuge for all. There was something about the communal experience of bathing that helped to break down the barriers between people, allowing for genuine interactions and conversations that might not have happened in other settings. But the hammam wasn't just a place for casual socializing. It was also a place for intellectuals and scholars to come together and share knowledge. In a city that prided itself on intellectual pursuits, the hammam acted as an informal meeting spot for those who worked in the House of Wisdom or other centers of learning. Philosophers, mathematicians, and scientists would often gather in the steamy, echoing chambers of the baths to discuss the latest theories or exchange ideas. Imagine sitting in the warmth of the bath, your muscles relaxed as you discuss the intricacies of astronomy or mathematics with some of the greatest minds of the era. The atmosphere was ripe for intellectual growth, as the physical relaxation of the body allowed the mind to open up to new ideas and perspectives. The idea of the bathhouse as a social institution isn't unique to Baghdad. It's been around in many ancient cultures. The Romans had their famous baths, as did the Persians. But in medieval Baghdad, the hammam took on an additional role. It became a symbol of communal life, a place where everyone from the powerful to the powerless could find a moment of peace, relaxation and conversation. For the people of Baghdad, the bathhouse was as essential as food or water. It wasn't just a luxury, it was a basic part of everyday existence, a practice so ingrained in society that it became an integral part of their daily routines. One of the most fascinating aspects of the hammam system in Baghdad was how the architecture was designed to create an environment of serenity and relaxation. The building itself was a work of art with intricate tile work and marble surfaces that reflected the soft light filtering in from above. The air inside was thick with steam, which helped cleanse the body and create a calming atmosphere. As you walked through the different rooms of the hammam, each one had its own purpose. The warm room helped to open up your pores, allowing you to sweat out the impurities of the day. The hot room provided an intense heat that helped to loosen your muscles and release tension, while the cold room was the final step where you would cool off and refresh your body after the heat. The entire process of moving through the different rooms was part of a ritual that served both physical and mental well-being. It wasn't just about hygiene, it was about balance. The hot, the warm, and the cold all worked together to cleanse the body, relax the muscles, and invigorate the senses. The experience was designed to make you feel whole, to wash away, not just the dirt on your skin, but also the stress and weariness from your mind. But it wasn't just about your physical well-being. In fact, the hammam played a crucial role in spiritual and religious practices as well. Bathing in many cultures was seen as an act of purification both for the body and for the soul. In Islam, cleanliness was a key aspect of spiritual life, and the ritual act of bathing symbolized both physical and spiritual purity. The hammam wasn't just a place to wash away sweat and dirt, it was also a place to cleanse yourself spiritually, to prepare for prayers, and to be in a state of physical and mental purity. Historians still debate whether the hammam's deep cultural and religious significance can be fully understood from the surviving records. Some argue that it was primarily a social institution, while others believe that its religious and spiritual functions were just as important. What we do know for sure, however, is that these public baths were deeply interwoven into the fabric of Baghdad's society, and they were vital to the people's health, social lives, and spiritual practices. As you sit in the cool water of the bath, you can imagine the kind of conversations that might be happening around you. Intellectual debates, casual chatter, and discussions of the latest news and rumors. You might even overhear a conversation about the latest scientific discoveries coming out of the House of Wisdom, or the best ways to prepare for an upcoming religious festival. The hammam was not just a place of relaxation. It was a place where information was shared, friendships were formed, and society's pulse could be felt. As you soak in the water, let the history of the place wash over you. You're part of something much bigger than yourself, a tradition that has spanned centuries and continues to influence modern culture today. The hammam was not just about bathing. It was about connection. It was about community intellectual exchange and a deeper understanding of the balance between body, mind, and soul. Section 4. Baths as social spaces. You might think a bath is just about getting clean right. A quick scrub, maybe a dip in warm water, and you're done. But in medieval Baghdad, things were a little more complex and a lot more social. The hammam wasn't just a place to bathe, it was where the real pulse of the city could be felt. The public baths were where people from all walks of life came to meet, exchange news, and catch up on gossip. This was the social network of the time, long before smartphones, Twitter feeds, or Facebook groups. Imagine you've just finished a long day of work, whether you're a merchant trying to sell your spices or a scholar working on a groundbreaking mathematical theory. You've been walking under the scorching sun, sweat clinging to your clothes, your energy drained. Then you hear it, the soft hum of chatter, the echo of laughter. The hammam is close. You step through the cool, welcoming doors, and immediately everything changes. The temperature drops, the noise outside fades, and the atmosphere inside is thick with steam and conversation. The hammam isn't just a bath. It's a space where people come together to relax, but also to talk, laugh, and, let's face it, network. You might think, but wasn't this just for the elite? Only the wealthy could afford such luxuries, right? Not necessarily. Sure, the richest people had their private rooms and extra amenities, but the hammam was a public place. It was designed to be accessible to everyone from the poorest laborers to the wealthiest merchants and intellectuals. In a city like Baghdad, where people were constantly interacting, having a shared space for these interactions was a necessity. People would meet in the hammam to negotiate business deals, discuss the latest political events, or share the local gossip. It was a great leveler, and it wasn't just business happening inside these walls. The hammam was a place for much-needed relaxation, a break from the everyday grind. For many, it was a time to unwind, tell jokes, or even swap stories about their personal lives. It's not hard to imagine the laughter that would fill the space as people bathed, shared a drink, or simply soaked in the cool air. These conversations weren't always highbrow discussions about science or philosophy. Sometimes they were just friendly exchanges about who was winning the latest game or the best new dish at a local eatery. But socializing in the hammam wasn't limited to just casual chat. This was where important political and business decisions often took place. Imagine being a wealthy merchant discussing your latest shipment of goods. You might bring it up in the bathhouse where other business people are unwinding and enjoying the cool water. You could strike deals in the midst of your bath with your business partners and rivals right next to you. The hammam wasn't just a place for relaxing, it was the original water cooler where business meetings happened without the formalities. For scholars and intellectuals, the hammam was a place where ideas were exchanged freely. Baghdad was the center of knowledge and intellectual life, with the House of Wisdom attracting thinkers from all corners of the Islamic world. The scholars who gathered there didn't just sit in dusty libraries all day. They also went to the hammam to exchange thoughts on philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Picture a group of scholars sweating, yes, but still deeply engaged in conversation, their ideas flowing as freely as the water around them. A discussion on the latest breakthroughs in astronomy might be interrupted by a question about the best way to prepare for the holy month of Ramadan, or a debate over which poet wrote the finest lines. And it wasn't just about intellectual or business pursuits. The hammam was also the place where people came to relax socially after long days. With the brutal heat of Baghdad, these baths provided a much-needed refuge from the sun. You could spend hours in the bath, lingering in the cool, steamy environment, while catching up on news stories and the everyday minutiae of life. It was more than just a quick wash. It was an experience that allowed you to connect with others on a deeper level. But not everyone had the same access to these luxurious hammams. The poorer classes, the workers and those with less money, had fewer opportunities to enjoy these communal baths, as the public baths often charged an entry fee. However, for those who could afford it, the hammam became an essential part of life. It was where people met, exchanged ideas, shared stories, and maintained connections that were necessary for their businesses, their social lives, and their mental well-being. Even for the wealthy, the hammam was more than just a place for hygiene. It was a hub for the city's social and intellectual activities. The rituals inside these bathhouses, also encouraged a sense of unity and camaraderie. The hammam was a sacred space for cleansing both body and soul, and while people were physically washed clean, they were also emotionally and socially renewed. You would step out of the hot room, the sweat pouring off your body only to cool off in the cold room, the water refreshing your skin, your body, and your mind. The experience was both a literal and metaphorical cleansing, a chance to leave behind the stresses of your day-to-day life and return to the world as a new, refreshed version of yourself. You could also see it as a place of bonding, where people of all backgrounds and social classes came together to shed their facades, if only for a few moments. Bathing was one of the few activities that everyone participated in, regardless of their status. In a way, it was a great equalizer, a rare moment when the boundaries between the wealthy and the poor blurred. In a city as large and diverse as Baghdad, with its mix of people from different backgrounds, the hammam offered a much-needed opportunity for shared experiences and mutual understanding. The hammam wasn't just a bathhouse. It was a cultural cornerstone of medieval Baghdad, a place that served as the backdrop to daily life business and relaxation. Whether you were a merchant conducting business, a scholar debating philosophy, or just a tired worker seeking relief, the hammam was a place where you could rest, refresh, and re-enter the world recharged and reinvigorated. Historians still debate whether the social aspect of the hammam was more important than its hygienic or spiritual purposes. Some argue that the cultural significance of the bathhouse far outweighed its practical uses, while others believe that its importance lay in its ability to connect people through shared experiences. Regardless of where you fall in this debate, one thing is certain. The hammam was an essential part of life in medieval Baghdad, a place where bodies were cleansed, minds were refreshed, and bonds were forged. Section 5. A cold bath's health benefits. By now, you've probably noticed something quite remarkable about the hammam. It was not just a social gathering space, but a sanctuary for your body's well-being. And let's face it, you've probably been feeling a little better yourself, just imagining the cooling sensation of that cold water, whether you're in Baghdad or your own living room. Cold baths weren't merely about relaxation or hygiene. They had serious health benefits that were recognized long before modern medicine even began to understand them. So let's get into it. Cold water can be an incredibly powerful tool for the body. Think about how good it feels to jump into a cold pool after you've been baking under the sun. That refreshing rush that instantly wakes you up is no accident. The cold forces your body to react. When your body comes in contact with cold water, it triggers a process known as vasoconstriction, which means your blood vessels constrict to preserve heat and protect vital organs. Once you get out of the cold water and warm up again, your body floods the areas that were constricted with oxygen-rich blood, helping to speed up healing and boost circulation. This natural cycle of constriction and expansion is invigorating, providing a ton of health benefits. Back in medieval Baghdad, people didn't know the science behind it, but they sure understood the effects. Taking a cold bath was one of the best ways to rejuvenate your body and relieve the heat that could cause exhaustion and heat stroke. Remember, during the summer, temperatures could easily climb past 40 degrees, 104 degrees Celsius. The relentless sun drained people, leaving them fatigued, irritable, and vulnerable to dehydration. Cold baths offered a critical line of defense. Not only did they cool you down in an instant, but they also helped your body recover from the strain of the extreme heat. For those feeling faint from heat exhaustion, or suffering from headaches brought on by dehydration, a cold bath was like a quick reboot. But the benefits didn't end there. Cold baths were also believed to boost the immune system. When your body undergoes the shock of cold water, it triggers the release of white blood cells, the body's primary defense against illness. Medieval people didn't have the advanced knowledge we have today, but they certainly recognized that cold water could make them feel invincible. There's even evidence from ancient texts that suggest people believed cold baths could help improve longevity and vitality. Whether it was a matter of personal belief or early scientific intuition, the health advantages were clear. The calming effects were just as important. Cold water has a way of resetting your nervous system. Imagine walking into the hammam feeling sluggish, your thoughts muddled and overwhelmed by the heat. A dip in cold water changes all of that. It has an almost immediate calming effect on your mind, helping you feel mentally alert and ready to take on the world. In a society as intellectually charged as Baghdad, a quick mental reset was probably just what you needed to continue those philosophical debates or engage in meaningful business transactions. Not only did cold baths revitalize the body, but they also promoted a deep sense of relaxation. While the physical effects of cold water were important, the psychological effects could not be underestimated. The hammam was a place where people not only cooled off physically, but also took time to relax mentally. The sensory experience of the bath, the steam, the cooling water, the soft murmurs of conversation created an environment that encouraged relaxation and stress relief. This ritualistic cooling down after a day of grueling heat wasn't just good for the body. It helped ease the mind, which in turn had a positive effect on emotional well-being. One fascinating aspect of cold baths in medieval Baghdad was their use in treating more than just heat-related issues. The renowned physician al-Razi, one of the leading medical minds of the time, was an advocate of cold water for various ailments. He recognized that cold baths could not only alleviate the effects of heat, but also serve as treatment for conditions like fever fatigue and inflammation. While modern medicine has refined our understanding of how cold therapy can aid in inflammation reduction and healing, al-Razi's insights were groundbreaking for the time. In a world where disease was often a mystery and healthcare options were limited, the cold bath was one of the few treatments that could address a wide range of health concerns. But cold water wasn't a panacea, it was just one tool in a larger set of remedies. In Baghdad, people didn't just rely on cold baths. They used a combination of herbal treatments, diet changes, and lifestyle practices to maintain health. Yet the hammam remained the most accessible and immediate remedy for those suffering from the effects of the sun. For a city that had no access to the medical technologies and advanced health systems we have today, the hammam was a crucial element of public health. It was the city's first line of defense against the extreme heat, a place that kept the people of Baghdad feeling strong and healthy. Now, while these benefits were clearly known to the people of Baghdad, it's important to note that not all cold baths were the same. There were variations in how the hammam was used for different health purposes. Some people would use the cold bath as a quick pick-me-up after spending hours working under the harsh sun, while others might indulge in the ritual of hot-to-cold immersion to relieve muscle tension and improve circulation. There were even cold baths reserved specifically for medical treatments, where the bathhouses would focus on specific conditions like swelling joint pain or fatigue. Regardless of the method, the cold bath became an essential tool in the daily lives of the people of Baghdad. What's even more interesting is that the effects of cold water on the body weren't just felt in the moment. Cold bathing also contributed to long-term wellness. As your blood circulated more effectively after a cold dip, Your body was better equipped to deal with the stressors of daily life, whether it was physical exertion or mental strain. It was like a natural reset button, and it helped people in Baghdad maintain their health over time. Today, we still recognize the power of cold water treatments, whether through cryotherapy or ice baths for athletes. And, while we might not have the same daily necessity for cold baths in the heat of the desert, we can certainly appreciate how a simple dip in cold water can make us feel alive and reinvigorated. In the end, it's no wonder that cold baths were so important in Baghdad. They weren't just a luxury or a form of relaxation, they were vital to the physical and mental well-being of the people. They helped people endure the heat, stay healthy, and even prevent disease. And as you now know, a cold bath in medieval Baghdad wasn't just a bath. It was a lifeline, a tool that helped people thrive in one of the hottest cities on earth. Section 6. The Roman Influence. It's hard to overstate the impact of Roman culture on the development of public baths in the Islamic world, especially in Baghdad. The Romans were pioneers when it came to the hammam-like bathhouses, and their influence can be seen in the structures that developed in later civilizations, including the Middle Eastern world. So, as you sit there in the cold water, letting it envelop your senses and cool your overheated body, it's easy to imagine how the bathhouses of Baghdad might have been inspired by the Roman predecessors. Let's rewind a bit. Imagine the grandeur of Roman bathhouses. Massive complexes with walls adorned in intricate mosaics where people could go to bathe, socialize, and relax in different temperatures. The Romans had perfected the art of bathing, and their thermae were not just baths. They were social institutions, places for relaxation, business, and intellectual exchange. While the bathhouse in medieval Baghdad was distinctly its own elements of Roman design and structure found their way into the culture of the hammam. The Romans were known for their engineering feats, and their bathhouses were no exception. They had large, spacious rooms with heated floors, running water, and sophisticated plumbing systems that would have seemed like magic to most people at the time. The Romans used underfloor heating called the hypocaust system to warm the bathhouses, ensuring that the rooms were comfortably warm, and the water, especially in the hot pools, was kept at a perfect temperature. The Romans made bathing a grand ritual, and the idea of communal bathing was deeply ingrained in Roman society. By the time the Abbasid Caliphate took over Baghdad in the 8th century, the influence of Rome had spread far and wide. The Romans had long since fallen, but their ideas, including those surrounding bathing, had been carried through the centuries by the Byzantines and other civilizations. As the Islamic Empire expanded across the Middle East, it encountered these Roman traditions and made them its own. The hammam in Baghdad was inspired by the thermae of the Romans, but it evolved to fit the needs and preferences of Islamic society. The layout of the hammam had some similarities to Roman bathhouses. There were separate rooms for hot, warm, and cold baths, allowing people to gradually ease into the water's temperature, much like the Romans had done. But it wasn't just about the physical layout. The hammam also carried a deep cultural significance that reflected the values of the Islamic world. While the Romans saw their baths as an opportunity for leisure socializing and hygiene, the people of Baghdad saw their bathhouses as a place of spiritual and physical purification. This purification wasn't just about getting clean. It was also about preparing oneself for prayer, maintaining one's physical and mental health, and reconnecting with the community. Cleanliness was viewed as a key component of spiritual purity in Islam, and visiting the hammam was considered an act of spiritual as well as physical cleansing. In the Islamic world, the importance of ritual cleanliness went beyond just bathing. It was a daily practice woven into the very fabric of religious life. And while the Romans had their own version of purification, the people of Baghdad took it one step further, intertwining hygiene with their faith and culture. Roman influence also shaped the materials used in the construction of hammams in Baghdad. The Romans were masters of architecture and engineering, and many of their materials, such as marble and concrete, were utilized in the construction of the hammam. The intricate tile work that decorated the walls of Roman bathhouses found a new home in the Middle East, where artisans perfected the art of tile design, creating stunning mosaics and decorative elements that gave the hammam a luxurious feel. While the Roman bathhouses were known for their grandeur, the hammams in Baghdad combined that same sense of grandeur with a distinctly Islamic aesthetic, featuring geometric patterns, arabesques, and intricate calligraphy that celebrated both form and function. But beyond the materials and design, it was the idea of communal bathing itself that left a lasting legacy. In both Roman and Islamic cultures, the bathhouse was seen as more than just a place to wash. It was a space to connect with others. In a society where business, politics, and personal lives were intertwined, having a space where people could gather and relax in the presence of others was essential. It allowed for conversations to flow freely, for intellectual discussions to take place, and for people to bond in a way that wasn't possible in other settings. The idea of using the bath as a place for relaxation and socialization might seem commonplace today, but it was a radical concept back then. The hammam wasn't just a spa or a place to take a quick shower. It was an institution deeply embedded in the social, political, and religious life of Baghdad. The Romans had introduced the idea, but it was the people of Baghdad who refined and adapted it, making it a space that suited their unique cultural needs. As you sit back in the cold water of the hammam, you can feel the legacy of the Roman bathhouses all around you. From the engineering of the building to the social nature of the bath, elements of Roman design and practice are still present, but they've been transformed into something distinctly Middle Eastern. The cold bath is a bridge between the ancient world and the Islamic Golden Age, and as you relax in the soothing waters, you're not just feeling the relief of cool water on a hot day, you're also experiencing a centuries-old tradition that continues to this very day. Historians still debate how much of Roman bath culture directly influenced the development of the hammam in the Islamic world. Some argue that the Romans had no direct influence on the hammam system, while others claim that the tradition was carried over and adapted by the Muslims. Either way, it's clear that the traditions of communal bathing have deep roots that stretch all the way back to ancient Rome, and they continue to shape the way people experience public baths today. The hammam in Baghdad is just one example of how the Romans, through their remarkable engineering and cultural practices, left an indelible mark on history. Section 7. The Wonders of Al-Razi's Medicine. As you relax further in the cooling waters of the hammam, it's not just the chill from the bath that refreshes you. It's also the realization that the very system that brought you here, the culture of the hammam, its social significance and its health benefits, was deeply rooted in a revolutionary approach to medicine. And no one was more integral to this medical renaissance than the great Persian physician and polymath Al-Razi. His work would lay the foundation for much of the medical knowledge that would later influence both the Islamic world and Europe. Al-Razi, known in the West as Rhazes, was one of the most brilliant minds of the Islamic Golden Age, and his contributions to medicine were nothing short of groundbreaking. His insights into the human body diseases and treatments were light years ahead of his time, and his understanding of health went far beyond simple remedies. While he didn't invent the hammam, his work on hygiene, public health, and therapeutic treatments was in perfect harmony with the culture of the public bathhouses in Baghdad. One of al-Razi's most important contributions was his emphasis on the importance of hygiene for preventing disease. In a time when little was understood about how diseases spread, al-Razi's insights into the role of cleanliness were revolutionary. He believed that good hygiene wasn't just a matter of personal care, it was a cornerstone of public health. This understanding of hygiene extended to the use of the hammam as a tool for not just relaxation, but for disease prevention. Public baths were seen as a way to promote cleanliness and prevent the spread of illnesses in a city as large and densely populated as Baghdad. Al-Razi's medical writings, particularly his book Kitab al-Hawi. The comprehensive book became a cornerstone of medieval Islamic medical knowledge. In this comprehensive work, he tackled a vast range of subjects from the diagnosis and treatment of diseases to discussions about the role of hygiene in promoting overall health. Al-Razi understood the importance of maintaining a balance in the body, and he saw the hammam as an integral part of that balance. The cold baths, in particular, were seen as a method to regulate the body's internal temperature, cleanse the skin, and improve circulation. It was clear that al-Razi recognized the benefits of cold water therapy long before modern science fully understood them. In addition to promoting hygiene, al-Razi also advanced the understanding of medicine through his focus on empirical observation and experimentation. He was one of the first to distinguish between different types of fevers and to develop treatments based on careful observation of symptoms and patient responses. His method of using controlled experiments was revolutionary for the time, and it laid the groundwork for the scientific approach to medicine that would later be embraced by European doctors during the Renaissance. While the rest of the world was still steeped in ancient superstitions and unclear theories about disease, al-Razi was on the cutting edge applying critical thinking and observation to the medical field. But al-Razi's contributions didn't stop at infectious diseases or hygiene. He also had a profound understanding of mental health. He was one of the earliest doctors to recognize that mental health was just as important as physical health, advocating for humane treatment of patients suffering from mental illnesses. This progressive outlook extended to his views on stress relief relaxation and the importance of rest principles that would be reinforced by the social and therapeutic function of the hammam in Baghdad. After all, when you're soaking in the soothing waters of a hammam, it's not just your body that benefits. The calm and relaxation you experience help relieve mental stress and promote emotional well-being. Two things that al-Razi would have certainly understood. But perhaps one of the most enduring contributions of al-Razi's work was his concept of self-care. In his writings, he stressed the importance of caring for oneself through regular baths, clean food, exercise, and mental peace. While this was revolutionary in its own right, it also found an echo in the culture of the hammam. Bathhouses in Baghdad were not only a place to cleanse the body, but also a place to nurture the spirit. They offered an environment where people could not only wash away the dirt of the day, but also refresh themselves mentally, emotionally, and socially. Al-Razi's influence on the bathhouse culture was profound. It helped transform the hammam from just a place for physical cleansing to a place that nourished the body and mind alike. It wasn't just about physical treatments for al-Razi, it was about creating a balanced, healthy lifestyle. His ideas on preventing disease through cleanliness and proper hygiene were deeply embedded in the hammam's role in society. While it might seem simple, the act of bathing became a critical part of public health. Al-Razi believed that a healthy community started with the cleanliness of its individuals, and the hammam was the perfect place for this idea to take root. Historians still debate the extent to which al-Razi's ideas influenced the practice of medicine in Europe. Some argue that his medical knowledge didn't make its way to Europe until centuries later, while others suggest that his work was a direct influence on European medical advancements. Regardless of the debate, what's undeniable is that al-Razi's approach to health, his understanding of hygiene, balance, and holistic care, was years ahead of its time. And in a city like Baghdad, where public health was so closely tied to communal spaces like the hammam, his influence can still be felt today as you relax further into the bath. Think about the legacy of al-Razi's work. While you may not be able to get his advice on which ailments to treat or how to balance your humors, you are experiencing something that he would have wholeheartedly endorsed: a system of public health that combined science, hygiene, and relaxation. His work wasn't just theoretical, it was practical and accessible, and it had a profound impact on the everyday lives of people in Baghdad and beyond. Thanks to al-Razi's contributions, the hammam became more than just a place to cool off. It became a central institution for health, well-being, and social life. Section 8. The Sensory Experience. Now that you've immersed yourself in the cold bath, let's take a moment to explore what it's really like to be inside a hammam. The experience isn't just about the physical relief from the heat. It's about everything your senses are picking up. As you sit there, the gentle steam swirling around you, the world outside fades away, and all that's left is the soothing atmosphere of the bathhouse. You've just stepped into a world that feels entirely different from the dry, oppressive streets of Baghdad. First, let's talk about the sounds. The hammam is a place of constant hum. The soft splashing of water, the muted conversations of other bathers, and the occasional rhythmic sound of water being ladled into the pools. It's calming, like a quiet symphony, where every note blends into the background, letting you focus only on the present moment. There's something about the acoustics of the bathhouse, the echoing walls, the water trickling from various fountains that makes the sounds more profound. It's not loud, but the sounds are thick and rich, almost as if the very air is carrying the melody of life itself. You can hear your own breathing as you exhale, a reminder that in this space you are reconnecting with your body. Then there's the smell. The air inside the hammam is thick with the faint, earthy scent of warm water, mingled with the herbal fragrances of soap and oils that are often used during baths. There's a hint of eucalyptus or rosemary, depending on the bathhouse's offerings. These smells have a purpose. They not only serve as a way to relax the senses, but also help cleanse the mind. The oils used in these baths are carefully chosen for their calming properties, and the moment you breathe them in, you begin to feel the tension in your body release. The sensation of the water is perhaps the most immediate and vivid part of the experience. As you submerge yourself into the cold water, the shock of the temperature is invigorating. The coolness of the water rushes over your skin, making every muscle in your body tighten and then relax. It's a cleansing sensation, almost like you're being reset. Your body, fatigued from the oppressive heat, is now awake, your senses sharper. The cold water doesn't just cool you down, it revives you, reawakening your circulation and your mental clarity. The muscles that were once sore from the heat are now relaxed, freed from the tension that built up over the long day. When you move from the cold pool into the warm or hot areas of the hammam, the transition is a marked shift. The warmth is enveloping, almost like a blanket wrapping around you, comforting and soothing. The heat soaks into your skin, and muscles loosening them even further. It's an embrace, and with each step you feel your body sink deeper into relaxation. The steam in the air rises, diffusing any remaining discomfort you might have carried with you from the outside world. You feel weightless, as if the burdens of the day have been lifted. The hammam also plays with the senses through its intricate design. The cool, calming blue and green tiles on the walls catch the light and reflect it back, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. The flickering light from candles or lanterns casts gentle shadows, adding to the mystique of the place. You can feel the smooth stone beneath your feet, the polished tiles gliding as you walk. The tactile sensation of the room, how every surface seems to invite your touch, adds a layer of sensory comfort to the bath. There's a deliberate sense of elegance in the design of the hammam that invites you to linger to soak in the experience, much as the Roman bathhouses had encouraged their visitors to do centuries before. But beyond the smells, sounds, and tactile experiences, there's also a deeper sensory effect. Being in a hammam isn't just about cooling off or relaxing, it's about resetting your mental state. The ritualistic aspect of bathing helps to clear your mind and focus on the present. There's a sense of peace here that can't be replicated anywhere else in the city. With the heat of Baghdad outside, the hammam becomes an oasis not just of physical coolness, but of mental tranquility. Your mind begins to quiet the usual chaos of your thoughts, fading into the background as you sink into the gentle rhythm of the water, the heat, and the calm. One of the most unique aspects of the hammam experience is how it affects your mood. The water, the steam, the peaceful sounds. Everything works together to lower stress and anxiety. The ritual of bathing here is deeply therapeutic. It's as if the water carries away not just the physical grime, but the mental weight of the day as well. You can't help but feel a sense of calm, of relaxation, of renewal. It's an emotional and physical reset, allowing you to leave behind whatever worries or stresses you've been carrying. Historians and philosophers have long discussed the power of rituals, how the act of repetition can bring people peace. In a world as fast-paced as medieval Baghdad, where the heat was as unrelenting as the constant flow of ideas and commerce, the hammam became a sanctuary of ritual that allowed the people to slow down, focus, and refresh. The sensory experience of the hammam helped to foster a sense of well-being that permeated every part of society. It wasn't just the wealthy who benefited from the calming effects of the bathhouse. It was everyone. The humble merchant, the scholar, the laborer, they all had a moment to relax and find peace in the communal bath. This sensory journey wasn't just a luxury for the elite. It was a shared experience that brought the people of Baghdad together, no matter their background. In the midst of all the noise and heat of the city, the hammam was the place where they could feel truly at peace. And, as you sit in the cool water today, you're not just experiencing the physical relief from the heat, you're also connecting with a long-standing tradition of care, of cleansing, and of finding balance in a world that can sometimes be overwhelming. The hammam wasn't just a bath, it was a sensory experience that provided physical relief, emotional rejuvenation, and ultimately a deep connection to the community. Section 9. A cooling relief from heat stroke. Imagine for a moment you're walking through the suffocating heat of Baghdad's summer streets. The sun beats down relentlessly, the air so dry it feels like it's stealing the moisture right from your body. You've been out in this oppressive heat for hours trying to get work done, maybe selling goods or running errands. The intense temperature is starting to feel unbearable, and you're beginning to notice that your head is getting heavier. Your muscles feel sluggish, your throat dry, and you can't seem to catch your breath. You feel dizzy, faint, and that sickening realization hits you. Heat stroke is creeping up on you. Heat stroke was a very real danger for the people of Baghdad, just as it is in many hot climates today. And in the absence of modern cooling systems or medical interventions, the residents of Baghdad had a single reliable remedy: cold baths. In a city where the temperature could easily rise to over 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees, the threat of heat exhaustion and heat stroke was ever present, especially during the blistering summer months. Heat stroke occurs when the body becomes so overheated that it can no longer regulate its temperature, effectively leading to symptoms like dizziness, nausea, confusion, and fainting. Without immediate cooling, it can lead to serious complications or even death. Now, in a time without air conditioning or the ability to rapidly cool down the hammam, was often the only real line of defense against heat stroke. Stepping into the cool waters of the hammam was a life-saving relief for those suffering from heat exhaustion. The cold water would help to lower the body's temperature quickly, slowing down the progress of heat stroke and restoring balance to the body. In medieval Baghdad, people didn't have the luxury of a cool breeze or bottled water to help them recover. What they did have was the bathhouse, and it became their refuge from the deadly heat. The moment you dip into the cold water, you're instantly aware of how powerful that temperature change is. The cold water floods your senses, jolting you awake. It's like hitting a reset button for your body. The shock to your system causes your blood vessels to constrict, and your body starts redirecting blood flow to your vital organs. This process helps to cool you down from the inside out, a kind of natural refrigeration for your body. At the same time, the sudden change from the extreme heat of the city to the coolness of the bath helps to bring your body back into equilibrium, alleviating the symptoms of heat exhaustion. While the immediate relief is undeniable, the benefits of cold water go deeper. Cold baths were considered to boost circulation and invigorate the body, pushing blood to the areas where it was most needed. This helped to reduce the physical strain of the heat and allowed the body to recover more quickly. Heat stroke often leads to dehydration and weakness, but soaking in the cold water not only cools you down, but helps you rehydrate in a way that allows your body to recover its strength more effectively. But cold baths didn't just address heat stroke, they were also used as a preventative measure. The people of Baghdad understood the dangers of the extreme heat, and they knew that taking regular baths in cold water could help stave off heat exhaustion before it became a serious problem. For those who worked outside or spent a significant amount of time under the sun, the hammam became a crucial tool for staying healthy. By dipping in and out of the cold water, people could regularly reset their body temperatures, minimizing the risk of heat-related illness. It was a form of self-care that helped people stay sharp, energized, and protected from the dangers of heat stroke. When you think about the sheer magnitude of the threat posed by the heat, it's easy to see why the hammam was such an essential part of daily life. This was not a time when people could simply run indoors or find shelter from the sun. There were no fans, no ice-cold drinks, no instant relief from the heat. The hammam was the only place where people could guarantee a quick recovery from the relentless sun. And for a city as grand as Baghdad, where people from all walks of life relied on the hammam for their health and social interactions, the role of the bathhouse in preventing and treating heat stroke was absolutely vital. Today, we might take for granted the ability to cool off with a fan or air conditioning. But in Baghdad, the public baths were life-saving. In a world without modern medicine or cooling systems, the people of Baghdad had developed a practical, effective way of combating heat stroke and heat exhaustion, and it all revolved around the hammam. Whether you were an intellectual scholar, a merchant, or a laborer, the cold bath was your safeguard against the dangers of the blazing desert sun. Historians still debate the exact medical practices of medieval Baghdad and the effectiveness of their methods. However, it's clear that cold baths were integral to keeping people alive and well in a city where the heat was a constant threat. In a way, the hammam served as a precursor to the modern spa, where the focus is not just on relaxation, but on rejuvenation and health. The cold water therapy used in these ancient baths might not have been understood in the same terms we use today, but the benefits were felt immediately, and for many it saved their lives. As you sit in the cool waters of the hammam, you can rest assured that the people of Baghdad knew exactly what they were doing. They understood the importance of cooling the body and mind, not just to relieve the stress of the day, but to protect against the very real threat of heat stroke. The hammam was more than just a bath, it was a vital part of survival, in a world where the heat could easily overwhelm you. And, in a way, you're continuing a long-standing tradition of self-care, made possible by the wisdom of those who came before you. Section 10. Alternative Cooling Methods. You're sitting comfortably now in the cool embrace of the hammam, feeling the relief from the scorching Baghdad heat. But let's step back for a moment and think about what might have happened if the hammam hadn't been an option. What did people do when they couldn't make it to the bathhouse? How did they survive the relentless desert heat? While the hammam was the most effective and popular solution, it wasn't the only way the people of Baghdad dealt with the heat. There were a variety of alternative cooling methods that helped people make it through those blistering summer days. For one, the architecture of Baghdad itself offered a surprising solution to the heat. The design of the buildings, particularly in wealthier districts, was optimized for cooling. Traditional homes and public spaces had thick walls made of mud brick which kept the interior cool by absorbing the heat during the day and releasing it at night. The flat roofs of these homes were often used as places to sleep during the hotter nights, where the cool evening breeze could provide some much-needed relief. The roofs, like the homes, were designed with practicality in mind, often covered in materials that reflected the sun's heat, rather than absorbed it, keeping the interior spaces more bearable. In addition to the architecture, the use of shaded courtyards was another cooling strategy. These courtyards, often planted with trees, provided cool, shaded spaces for people to gather during the day. The natural shade helped to block out the sun's rays and allowed people to relax in a cooler environment. The gardens and fountains that filled these courtyards added an extra layer of cooling as the water evaporated, lowering the temperature around them. For many, these courtyards were a place of refuge, especially during the hottest parts of the day. But let's not forget about the practical things people did to cool down. You could often find people wearing light, breathable clothing made from linen or cotton to help wick away sweat and keep their bodies cool. Large, wide-brimmed hats and scarves were common, designed to shield the face and neck from the sun. People also used water to cool off by applying it to their skin throughout the day. This could mean splashing water on your face using a damp cloth to wipe your brow, or even dipping your hands in a nearby fountain to refresh yourself. Then there was the fan. While we tend to think of electric fans as a modern luxury, the people of medieval Baghdad had their own version, large handheld fans made of palm fronds or fabric, which they would wave gently to create a breeze. These fans weren't as powerful as the electric models we use today, but they provided some relief from the heat. And, while the fan could help to move the air around, it couldn't compare to the drastic cooling effects of the hammam water. Water itself was another key tool in keeping cool. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers provided a steady supply of fresh water, which was crucial for both irrigation and cooling. Water was essential to Baghdad's survival in the harsh heat, and it was often used to rinse off the body or to hydrate throughout the day. Public fountains were common in the city, offering people a chance to refresh themselves on the go. But while water was plentiful in Baghdad, it wasn't always safe to drink. Many people relied on the hammam for cleanliness, and the cold bath was as much about refreshing the body as it was about staying healthy by avoiding contaminated water sources. Interestingly, the use of perfumes and oils also played a significant role in helping people stay cool. In a time before deodorants and modern lotions, scented oils were used not only for fragrance but also to protect the skin from the harsh sun and the drying effects of the heat. People would apply oils such as olive oil rosewater or ambergris to their skin, helping to lock in moisture and provide a barrier against the scorching sun. This would keep the skin from cracking and help maintain hydration throughout the day. Food, too, played a role in the battle against heat. People in Baghdad would often eat lighter, cooler meals during the hottest parts of the day. Foods like yogurt fruit and chilled water-based dishes. These meals provided hydration and helped to keep the body cool from the inside out. Heavier, oil-laden foods were generally reserved for the cooler evenings when the heat had started to subside. But the key to surviving the heat was balance, staying hydrated, using cool spaces like courtyards and fountains, and, of course, regularly visiting the hammam for a thorough cleanse. But despite all these alternatives, there was no substitute for the hammam. The cooling effect of a cold bath was unlike anything else. Imagine trying to cool down using only a fan, or splashing your face with water when the temperature is pushing 40 degrees. 100 Celsius. It just wouldn't be enough. The hammam was a full-body treatment, allowing people to reset not just their body temperature, but also their mental and emotional state. The cold water helped bring balance to the body in a way that other methods simply couldn't achieve. When you think about the ingenuity of the people of Baghdad, it's incredible how they made use of their environment to survive. From the architecture of their homes to the cooling techniques they used, the residents of Baghdad showed a deep understanding of how to adapt to their environment. And yet, it's the public bath, the hammam, that stands out as the most essential and life-saving of all these methods. It wasn't just a place to wash away the heat, it was the heart of the city's strategy for surviving the unrelenting sun. So, as you sit back and enjoy the cooling waters of the hammam, remember that the heat of Baghdad was no small challenge. It shaped every part of the city's design, culture, and daily life. The ingenuity of the people in creating cooling alternatives shows their resilience, but the hammam was without a doubt the cornerstone of their survival in one of the hottest cities on Earth. Section 11. The Science Behind Cold Water. You've been soaking in the soothing, cool waters of the hammam for a while now, and you can already feel the relief washing over you. It's not just the sensation of coolness that makes you feel better, it's also what's happening inside your body. The effects of cold water therapy are well known in modern science, but the people of medieval Baghdad knew the benefits long before anyone had the tools to understand the biology behind it. Cold water triggers a series of fascinating biological responses that work in harmony to bring balance to the body. The most immediate reaction when your body is submerged in cold water is vasoconstriction, which is the narrowing of blood vessels. This is your body's natural defense mechanism to preserve heat and protect vital organs from the cold. When you're exposed to cold water, your blood vessels tighten to restrict the flow of blood to your extremities, concentrating the flow around your core to protect the heart and other critical organs. This mechanism helps to keep your body from losing too much heat and allows it to maintain essential internal temperatures. But it doesn't stop there. Once you leave the cold water and return to a warmer environment, your blood vessels dilate, a process known as vasodilation. This increase in blood flow allows oxygen-rich blood to rush back to the areas that were previously restricted, helping to remove metabolic waste products like carbon dioxide and lactic acid. This process not only aids in recovery from physical exertion, but it also helps to promote healing by encouraging better circulation. So the cold bath you're enjoying right now isn't just about cooling off, it's also helping to improve circulation, boost your energy levels, and support your body's natural healing processes. Cold water therapy has been shown to reduce inflammation, which is key for anyone recovering from physical exertion, muscle soreness, or injury. In ancient Baghdad, where long hours under the burning sun and strenuous work could easily lead to fatigue and sore muscles, a cold bath offered immediate relief. Whether you were a laborer or a scholar, spending hours walking in the heat or hunched over a desk, your body could easily become inflamed and fatigued. Cold water helped to reduce this inflammation and accelerate recovery, ensuring that people could stay active and continue with their daily routines. The hammam was not just about hygiene, it was about physical resilience. But the benefits of cold water aren't just physical, they're also mental. When you immerse yourself in cold water, your body's natural stress response is triggered. Your heart rate increases and you experience a rush of adrenaline, also known as the fight-or-flight response. This reaction might sound a bit intense, but it's exactly what your body needs when dealing with extreme heat or stress. The adrenaline rush sharpens your mind and helps you stay alert and focused. Over time, regular cold water immersion can help reduce the body's overall stress levels and improve mood, which is why many modern athletes and even everyday people swear by cold showers or ice baths as a way to feel rejuvenated and refreshed. For the people of Baghdad who faced extreme heat on a daily basis, the cold bath was a way to counteract the constant stress placed on their bodies by the environment. It wasn't just about staying cool, it was about resetting the body's natural balance and giving it a fighting chance against the elements. Cold baths allowed people to recover from the mental and physical strain of living in one of the hottest cities on Earth. They also promoted mental clarity, helping people to clear their minds, regain focus, and approach their daily challenges with a renewed sense of energy. This balance between physical and mental health was something the people of Baghdad understood deeply. In a city where intellectual life thrived, where scholars gathered in the House of Wisdom to exchange ideas and push the boundaries of knowledge, the ability to maintain mental clarity and focus was crucial. And as you sit back and enjoy the cold water today, it's not just your body that benefits. Your mind is also getting a little respite, helping you feel more centered and relaxed. Cold water therapy's benefits go beyond just physical recovery and mental clarity. Studies have also shown that exposure to cold water boosts the immune system. When your body is exposed to the shock of cold, it triggers the release of white blood cells, which are essential for fighting off infections. This process helps the body become more resistant to illness, which would have been a major benefit in medieval Baghdad, where the threat of disease was ever present. In a time when sanitation practices weren't as advanced as they are today, and the spread of infectious diseases was a real concern, strengthening the immune system was crucial to staying healthy. Regular exposure to cold water in the hammam could have played a significant role in helping to reduce the incidence of illness. In modern times, cold water therapy has become a popular method for improving recovery, reducing inflammation and enhancing overall well-being. Athletes routinely take ice baths to speed up muscle recovery after intense workouts, and many health enthusiasts incorporate cold showers into their daily routines for a burst of energy. But the ancient people of Baghdad were ahead of the curve. They instinctively knew the benefits of cold water, long before anyone had the scientific knowledge to explain it. The cold hammam bath was their version of the modern-day recovery technique, and it was just as effective. So, as you sit there in the cold water, take a moment to appreciate the wisdom of those who came before you. The ancient people of Baghdad had no idea that they were practicing modern recovery methods, but they understood that the body and mind needed balance, especially in a city as hot and demanding as theirs. The cold bath wasn't just a luxury. It was a life-sustaining practice that kept them healthy, focused, and ready to take on the challenges of their daily lives. The next time you step into a cold bath or take a cold shower, remember you're not just cooling off. You're tapping into a centuries-old tradition that has kept people healthy and strong for generations. Section 12. The Mind Behind the Baths. Caliph al-Ma'mun. As you continue soaking in the soothing waters of the hammam, it's worth taking a step back and considering the person who played a crucial role in making these public baths a part of everyday life in Baghdad. We've talked about how the hammam became a place for relaxation, intellectual exchange, and health. But none of this would have been possible without the leadership of Caliph al-Ma'mun. He didn't just rule over the Abbasid Caliphate. He understood the importance of public health and the role the bathhouses played in society. Let's take a closer look at al-Ma'mun's vision and how he helped shape the infrastructure of the city, particularly when it came to the development of public bathhouses and health systems. Al-Ma'mun, who ruled the Abbasid Caliphate from 813 to 833, was a forward-thinking ruler who placed a strong emphasis on science knowledge and the well-being of his people. Under his leadership, Baghdad became the center of intellectual life, and the caliph invested heavily in public infrastructure, education, and health. He was known for his love of learning, and his patronage of the arts and sciences helped establish the city as one of the most important intellectual hubs of the medieval world. This vision extended to health as well, and al-Ma'mun understood the value of public baths as a tool for both hygiene and social cohesion. While the hammam was already a part of the cultural fabric in Baghdad, al-Ma'mun expanded and improved upon the system. His reign coincided with a period of great scientific and cultural flourishing in the Islamic world known as the Islamic Golden Age. During this time, scholars from all over the world gathered in Baghdad to translate Greek, Persian, and Indian texts into Arabic, preserving ancient knowledge and building on it. Al-Ma'mun's reign is often seen as a period when the Islamic world embraced intellectual progress, and this mindset extended to public health as well. Al-Ma'mun understood that keeping people healthy and clean was essential to maintaining a prosperous society. The public baths in Baghdad weren't just about bathing. They were part of a larger systematic approach to public health that al-Ma'mun championed. He encouraged the construction of more bathhouses throughout the city, ensuring that people from all social classes could access them. The hammam wasn't just a luxury for the wealthy. It was a resource for everyone. For al-Ma'mun, the public bathhouses were more than just places to wash. They were places where people could gather, relax, and rejuvenate both physically and mentally. He recognized that a healthy society was a productive society, and the hammam became a key component of that health strategy. Al-Ma'mun's contributions to public health extended beyond the hammam system. He also focused on improving sanitation and public water systems, recognizing the importance of clean water for both hygiene and disease prevention. He ensured that the infrastructure of Baghdad included well-maintained aqueducts and public fountains, so that citizens could access fresh water for drinking, bathing, and irrigation. The hammam became part of a larger system of public amenities that worked in harmony to create a healthier, more sustainable city. Another important aspect of al-Ma'mun's rule was his support of medical advancements. He was a patron of physicians, scholars, and researchers, and he encouraged the study of medicine and health sciences. Al-Ma'mun understood that health was closely tied to knowledge and innovation, and he helped fund institutions dedicated to medical research and education. One of the most significant contributions of his reign was the translation of medical texts from Greek, Persian, and Sanskrit into Arabic, which helped preserve and expand medical knowledge. Al-Ma'mun's efforts laid the foundation for the advancement of medicine in the Islamic world, and many of the medical principles that were later developed in Europe had their roots in the intellectual work done in Baghdad during his reign. While al-Ma'mun was known for his love of intellectual pursuits, he was also deeply concerned with the welfare of his people. He saw public health as an essential part of his duty as a ruler, and he took active steps to ensure that Baghdad's citizens had access to the resources they needed to stay healthy. By investing in public bathhouses, improving sanitation, and promoting medical research, he created a framework for public health that would benefit Baghdad for generations to come. In a way, al-Ma'mun's reign represents the ideal intersection of intellectual progress and practical governance. He was a caliph who understood that the health of his people was critical to the success of his empire, and he acted accordingly. The hammam was one of the key tools in his strategy, and it served as a symbol of his commitment to public well-being. The hammam was not just a place for bathing. It was a place where the mind and body could come together, where people could relax, refresh, and engage with each other in ways that contributed to the overall harmony and prosperity of the city. Al-Ma'mun's contributions to public health were part of a larger vision for Baghdad as a thriving, dynamic center of knowledge and culture. Under his leadership, the city flourished, and its public infrastructure, especially its health infrastructure, became a model for other cities across the Islamic world. The hammam was a key component of this infrastructure, and its role in Baghdad's development is a testament to al-Ma'mun's foresight and dedication to the well-being of his people. So, as you continue to relax in the hammam, it's worth reflecting on how the legacy of al-Ma'mun lives on in these spaces. He understood that good health was the foundation of a thriving society, and his efforts to improve public health and hygiene were instrumental in shaping the culture of the hammam in Baghdad. The bathhouse wasn't just a place for personal hygiene, it was a part of a larger vision for a healthier, more connected community. Al-Ma'mun may not have been the one to invent the bathhouse, but his influence in shaping the public health practices that surrounded it cannot be overstated. Section 13. The Bathhouses of the Elite. While the public bathhouses of Baghdad, the hammams, were a common and accessible feature of the city's landscape, not all bath experiences were created equal. For the elite of Baghdad, merchants, scholars, and wealthy aristocrats, the bathhouse was more than just a place to cool down or cleanse oneself after a long day. The bathhouse was a sanctuary, a place of luxury, and often a site for indulgence and privacy. Though the hammam was a communal space, the upper class could expect a more refined, exclusive experience with private rooms, personalized services, and a level of comfort that set them apart from the general populace. Imagine you are a wealthy merchant or noble in Baghdad. After a long day of managing trade goods, negotiating deals, or simply attending to the demands of your position, you decide it's time to relax. The hammam beckons, but not just any public bath. No, the elite had their own private, lavishly designed bathhouses often located within the grander estates or as part of luxurious villas in the wealthier districts of Baghdad. These hammams were designed with the utmost comfort and opulence in mind, with intricately decorated tiles, delicate mosaics, and imported materials from far-off lands. The walls might be adorned with luxurious Persian carpets or fine marble, creating an environment that was as much about aesthetic pleasure as it was about physical comfort. Unlike the public hammams, which were bustling spaces where you shared the experience with others, the elite bathhouses offered privacy and seclusion. The wealthy had the luxury of private rooms, often larger than those in the public bathhouses, where they could enjoy the cooling waters and relaxing heat in peace away from the prying eyes of the general public. These private baths often came with a suite of services including attendants who would help with washing, massaging, and anointing the skin with fragrant oils. The experience was as much about pampering as it was about cleanliness. For the elite, the hammam was not just a place of function. It was a space where luxury, relaxation, and social status intersected. These bathhouses, although designed for comfort and seclusion, still adhered to many of the traditions of the public hammam. The same stages of hot, warm, and cold baths were maintained, but the elite baths often included extra indulgent touches. Imagine a warm pool infused with lavender oils, a room filled with delicate perfumes from distant lands, or a gentle massage to relieve the tensions of the day. The atmosphere would have been tranquil, with soft lighting from lanterns or candles and the soothing sound of flowing water filling the space. It was a sanctuary for the wealthy to escape the pressures of city life, offering both physical relief and a quiet place for reflection or conversation. Socializing in the elite hammams was of course different from the communal experience in public bathhouses. While the latter often functioned as places for business discussions, debates, and casual conversations, the private baths of the elite were more reserved for intimate gatherings. This was where the high-ranking members of society could relax with their peers, whether that meant talking politics, discussing the latest literary works, or simply enjoying a moment of shared tranquility. It was also a space for personal relaxation, where the pressures of maintaining one's social standing could be momentarily set aside. Despite the luxurious experiences offered by private bathhouses, the hammam remained a deeply personal and important part of life for the elite. It was a space where they could cleanse themselves not only of dirt, but of the day's stress and distractions. The rituals of the bathhouse, with its stages of heat and cold, were a form of renewal. As your body went through the physical experience of cleansing, so too did your mind and soul undergo a kind of reset, a process of purification that allowed you to return to the world renewed, refreshed, and reinvigorated. In these spaces, it wasn't just about the external experience of water and heat. It was about personal rejuvenation. The hammam was an integral part of the well-being of Baghdad's elite, helping to maintain their health, alleviate the mental strain of their busy lives, and give them a quiet, meditative retreat away from the demands of their status. The elite of Baghdad understood that physical and mental health were inextricably linked, and the hammam was their place of restoration. What's fascinating is that despite the differences in the level of luxury between public and private bathhouses, they shared a common purpose. Both were designed to provide a respite from the heat, a moment of relaxation, and an opportunity to nurture the body and mind. While the elite may have enjoyed a more secluded experience, the general public was not excluded from the health benefits that the hammam provided. Everyone in Baghdad had access to this incredible institution, whether they were wealthy merchants or humble laborers. The luxury of the elite bathhouses was available to only a select few, but the underlying principles, health, relaxation, purification, were universal. The hammam was in many ways a reflection of Baghdad itself, a city that was both cosmopolitan and diverse, a place where luxury and accessibility coexisted in ways that were rare in the world at the time. The elite hammams were part of a larger system of public amenities that helped maintain the well-being of the city's inhabitants, providing everyone from the poorest to the wealthiest with a place to relax, refresh, and rejuvenate. Even though the experience varied based on social class, the hammam was a cornerstone of Baghdad's culture, and its impact can still be seen in the bathhouses of the modern world. As you sit back and enjoy the cold water in the hammam today, you're not just experiencing a moment of relaxation. You're taking part in a centuries-old tradition that has provided the people of Baghdad with physical and mental relief from the elite to the common folk. The hammam was more than just a bath. It was a key part of the social fabric of the city, and it continues to be a symbol of the balance between luxury, health, and community. Section 14. A sudden dip in culture. As you sit in the cooling embrace of the hammam, reflecting on the deep cultural and social significance of this ancient tradition, it's impossible to ignore the way that bathhouse culture slowly started to fade over the centuries. The hammam, which had once been a cornerstone of public and private life in Baghdad, became increasingly marginalized as cultural shifts, political changes, and the expansion of new technologies brought different priorities to the forefront. What happened to the hammam culture in Baghdad? How did it lose its prominence? Let's take a step back and examine the forces that led to the decline of the bathhouse in one of the world's greatest cities. The story of the hammam's decline begins in the late medieval period, during a time of significant political and economic upheaval. The Abbasid Caliphate, which had ruled Baghdad for centuries, began to weaken due to internal strife, external invasions, and the rise of competing powers in the region. With the fall of Baghdad to the Mongols in 1258, the once flourishing city experienced a major blow to its political, economic, and cultural stability. This invasion was not just a military conquest, it was a symbolic end to an era. The Mongols razed much of the city, destroying libraries, markets, and cultural landmarks, and the hammams, while not completely destroyed, were severely impacted by this upheaval. The cultural shifts that followed the fall of Baghdad played a role in the decline of the bathhouse as well. As Baghdad transitioned under Mongol rule, the city's priorities changed. While the hammam had once been a vital part of the community valued for both its hygienic and social functions, the focus began to shift toward different kinds of governance, religion, and economic models. The luxurious communal bathing culture that flourished under the Abbasid caliphs gave way to a more utilitarian approach to health and hygiene, where bathing became a private matter rather than a communal experience. Over time, the wealthy elite, who had once relied on the hammam as an exclusive retreat, began to move toward more private forms of bathing and relaxation, further diminishing the cultural importance of the public bathhouse. But it wasn't just the political and social changes that contributed to the decline of the hammam. Technological advances in the centuries that followed also played a role in shifting people's focus away from communal bathing. The development of plumbing systems and indoor baths in private homes, particularly during the Ottoman and Safavid periods, meant that fewer people needed to rely on public bathhouses for their hygiene. The availability of personal bathing facilities led to a gradual shift toward more private, individualized methods of bathing, and the role of the hammam in the social and cultural life of Baghdad began to wane. As new influences from the West and changes in Islamic practice began to shape the city, traditional practices, such as the hammam, became less central to everyday life. In some cases, the hammam itself became an object of criticism, seen as outdated or foreign by those looking to modernize their society. The advent of Western-style health practices and the increasing secularization of certain aspects of public life further marginalized the hammam as an institution. No longer the center of intellectual debates or social gatherings, the hammam was slowly phased out as a significant cultural space in Baghdad. But perhaps one of the most profound shifts came with the changing religious views on public bathhouses. In the early years of the Islamic Golden Age, the hammam was revered not just as a place of physical cleansing, but as a space of spiritual purification. Over time, however, changes in Islamic thought led to a more individualized view of purity and cleanliness, and the communal ritualistic aspects of the hammam fell out of favor. The private bath became the preferred method of maintaining personal hygiene, and the public hammam lost its sacred and social significance. This decline of the hammam in Baghdad is in many ways a reflection of broader shifts in the world at the time. With the rise of new political powers, new technologies, and changing religious and social values, the communal spaces that had once been so central to the fabric of society became less relevant. The hammam, which had been the heartbeat of the city, a place where people came together to relax, exchange ideas, and care for their bodies, was relegated to the background as society moved in new directions. In today's modern world, the hammam is not as central to Baghdad's culture as it once was. However, the legacy of the hammam still lingers. While many of the ancient bathhouses have fallen into disrepair or have been abandoned altogether, there are still remnants of this once great tradition to be found. In many places, especially in more traditional or rural areas, the hammam still holds cultural significance. You might find modern hammams that draw inspiration from their ancient predecessors, offering a blend of old-world charm and contemporary amenities. These bathhouses continue to provide the same benefits they always have: relaxation, purification, and a sense of community. The decline of the hammam in Baghdad is a reminder that cultures like cities are constantly changing. What was once the center of daily life and social interaction can fade away as new ideas and technologies take hold. But the essence of the hammam, the act of cleansing the sense of community and the physical and mental rejuvenation it provides, remains timeless. In a way, the modern revival of hammams in cities across the world serves as a tribute to the enduring cultural significance of these ancient bathhouses. While their original purpose may have evolved, the spirit of the hammam as a place of healing connection and relaxation continues to live on. Section 15. Cold baths in modern times. Here you are, soaking in the cool waters of the hammam, feeling the weight of the ancient tradition all around you. The warm, comforting scent of oils and herbs fills the air, the cool water lapping at your skin. You're enjoying a practice that has been passed down for centuries, one that has stood the test of time, adapting and evolving as societies have changed. And it's in this moment of relaxation, this timeless ritual, that you realize, despite the advancements of modern medicine technology and wellness practices, cold baths still play an important role in how people care for themselves today. In fact, cold water therapy is experiencing something of a renaissance in the 21st century. Today, people from all walks of life, athletes, wellness enthusiasts, and even those just looking for a little bit of rejuvenation, are turning to cold water for its incredible health benefits. The practice, which was once an ancient tradition, has been revived in modern wellness circles, particularly with the rise of cryotherapy ice baths and cold showers. These practices, which focus on the benefits of cold exposure, have become popular as people seek ways to enhance recovery, reduce inflammation, and boost their overall well-being. Modern cold water therapy, whether through ice baths or cold showers, is praised for its ability to speed up recovery for athletes. In fact, many professional athletes swear by ice baths to reduce muscle soreness and promote faster healing after intense physical exertion. It's fascinating to see how this ancient practice, once used in the hammam to cool down from the heat of Baghdad, has been repurposed to meet the needs of the modern world. While the hammam experience itself is much more luxurious and immersive than an ice bath or cold shower, the principle remains the same. Cold water is an incredibly powerful tool for the body's recovery and rejuvenation. But cold water therapy isn't just about physical recovery. It has a mental and emotional component too. In the modern world, where stress and anxiety are all too common, cold exposure has been shown to have a profound impact on mood. The shock of cold water triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good hormones. These endorphins can help elevate mood, reduce stress, and even improve mental clarity. Cold water has been linked to a decrease in symptoms of depression and anxiety, making it an increasingly popular form of mental health self-care. The appeal of cold water as a method of rejuvenation is rooted not just in physical benefits, but in its ability to clear the mind and provide a reset. This connection to mental health is something that the people of medieval Baghdad would have understood even if they didn't have the scientific language to describe it. The hammam was a space where, after physical cleansing, people often felt mentally refreshed. The experience of moving through hot, warm, and cold waters helped them unwind, reduce mental tension, and regain focus. In many ways, cold water therapy today continues that tradition, offering a simple yet powerful method to help people reset both body and mind. And it's not just the athletes and wellness enthusiasts who are benefiting from cold baths. With the rise of mindfulness and self-care practices, many people are incorporating cold exposure into their daily routines as a way to stay grounded and centered. Cold water is being used in everything from traditional saunas to modern cryotherapy chambers, where people expose themselves to freezing temperatures for short periods to improve circulation, boost immunity, and enhance skin tone. People have come to realize that cold water is a versatile, all-natural remedy for a wide range of physical and mental challenges. Interestingly, cold water therapy has also found a place in modern medical treatments. Some studies have shown that exposure to cold water can help reduce inflammation in conditions like arthritis, and even help manage pain after surgery. The therapeutic benefits of cold exposure are being explored in a variety of settings, from rehabilitation centers to physical therapy clinics. It's a testament to the lasting power of these ancient practices, and how something as simple as cold water can still have profound effects on health and well-being in the modern world. But what makes the modern practice of cold water so unique is how it draws upon ancient wisdom. In many ways, the resurgence of cold baths in today's world is a return to the very principles that the people of Baghdad embraced centuries ago. The hammam was, after all, more than just a place of hygiene. It was a place of healing, relaxation, and community. Today, cold water therapy continues to offer people not only physical benefits, but also a sense of connection to something larger than themselves. What's most remarkable is that cold water therapy today isn't confined to just a specific group of people or elite institutions. The rise of wellness culture and modern health practices has made it accessible to nearly anyone who wants to experience its benefits. Whether you're jumping into a cold lake, submerging yourself in an ice bath, or taking a brisk cold shower, the experience is open to anyone. This democratization of health practices brings cold water therapy full circle, much like the hammam in medieval Baghdad, which was available to people of all social classes. Modern cold water therapy is a tool for physical and mental well-being that anyone can use. It's fascinating how something that was once a luxury for the elite in Baghdad and a community practice for everyone has returned in the modern world as a universal method for self-care. From the hammam of the past to the ice baths of today, cold water has proven time and again to be a powerful tool for rejuvenation, wellness, and healing. Whether you're an athlete, a scholar, or just someone looking to reset after a long day, cold water is a practice that has stood the test of time, and it's just as relevant today as it was in the heat of medieval Baghdad. So, as you sit back and let the cool waters of the hammam wash over you, remember that this ancient tradition of cold water therapy continues to shape modern wellness practices. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions, like a cold bath, can offer the greatest rewards for both the body and the mind. The hammam, with all its beauty culture and health benefits, continues to inspire generations to find balance and healing one cold dip at a time. Section 16. What if you missed the bath? Here you are at the end of your journey through the hammam, feeling refreshed, renewed, and perhaps even a little more connected to the past than when you began. The hammam, with its rich history, cultural significance, and health benefits, has been a companion to the people of Baghdad for centuries. But what happens if you miss the bath? What happens if, for whatever reason, you don't make it to the hammam today or any day? The hammam was not just a luxury, it was essential. Skipping it wasn't just a missed opportunity for relaxation. It could have long-term effects on your well-being, and you would be missing out on one of the most vital aspects of social and communal life in Baghdad. The hammam wasn't just about bathing. It was about ensuring your physical and mental health in a way that no other ritual or practice could. When you missed the bath, it wasn't just a matter of neglecting hygiene. It was neglecting the care of your body, mind, and spirit. Imagine walking through the blistering streets of Baghdad's summer without the cooling reprieve of the bathhouse. Your body would be left to bear the full brunt of the sun's heat. Fatigue would set in quickly, dehydration could follow, and even the most basic physical tasks would become increasingly difficult. In the absence of the hammam, the heat would take its toll on your health, and your ability to function throughout the day would gradually diminish. Beyond the physical aspect, the hammam served an essential social function. It was a place where you could recharge not only your body, but also your relationships with others. Whether you were there to engage in business transactions, share philosophical debates, or just unwind with a friend, the hammam provided a crucial venue for communication and connection. Missing the bath meant missing out on opportunities to engage with the world around you. It was a space for forging bonds, for sharing news, and for being a part of something larger than yourself. Without the hammam, you were essentially cutting yourself off from one of the key social rituals of the time. But the effects of missing the bath weren't just physical or social, they were emotional too. The hammam was a place for relaxation, mental clarity, and stress relief. You've experienced the calming effect of the warm water, the soothing scents, and the gentle conversation that fills the air. Without the hammam, life would feel a bit more chaotic, a bit more disconnected. You would miss that reset, that moment of peace where the worries of the day are washed away and you're allowed to emerge feeling like a new person. Without the hammam, the stresses of daily life would accumulate, and it would become harder to maintain a sense of balance and inner peace. The hammam also played a key role in keeping people in good health, not just in terms of hygiene, but in terms of preventing illness. People didn't just visit the hammam to cool off from the sun. They went to maintain their health and reduce the risk of disease. Public health was directly tied to communal bathing, especially in a time when diseases could spread quickly. Without regular visits to the hammam, you might find yourself more susceptible to illnesses, especially during the hot months when the heat could exacerbate everything from dehydration to respiratory issues. The hammam was an essential part of the public health infrastructure, a space that helped people maintain their health in a world without modern medical interventions. But what if you missed it, and there were no hammams nearby? Would there be any substitute for this crucial practice? Sure, you could attempt to cool down by drinking water or resting in shaded spaces. But there was nothing quite like the hammam, a space where you could access the healing power of water, the restorative effects of heat and cold, and the community aspect all in one place. The hammam was a complete experience that was not easily replicated. It was designed to heal not just the body, but the mind and spirit. Without it, you'd be left trying to patch together something that was never truly the same. In today's world, where modern conveniences like air conditioning, plumbing, and personal baths have replaced the communal hammam, we might not think about the profound impact that missing a simple bath might have. But for the people of Baghdad in the medieval era, the hammam was a cornerstone of daily life. Missing it wasn't just a missed opportunity to get clean. It was a missed opportunity for personal care, social interaction, and mental restoration. The hammam was a fundamental part of their lifestyle, woven deeply into the fabric of their existence. When you think about it, missing the bath in a city like Baghdad would be more than just a small inconvenience. It would be a disconnection from the pulse of the city itself. The hammam was not just a building. It was a reflection of the community's values, health practices, and social life. Missing the hammam meant missing the chance to reconnect with yourself, your community, and your city. So, as you finish your time in the hammam, take a moment to appreciate just how much this ritual means. It's not just about getting clean or cooling down. It's about taking care of yourself in the most holistic way possible. The hammam has been providing this service for centuries, and while it may have evolved over time, its importance remains undeniable. If you had missed it, you would have missed not only the physical relief, but the social connection and mental restoration that come with the experience. In a world that moves faster every day, the hammam is a reminder to slow down, take care of ourselves, and nurture our well-being in all its forms. So, the next time you step into a hammam, or take a cold shower, a quick dip, or even just a moment to refresh yourself, remember the history of this practice and the profound impact it's had on generations of people seeking to heal, connect, and rejuvenate. Missing it means missing out on something timeless and deeply human. Good night.